being an audiophile can be super fun, but it also can be a little overwhelming at times, and you can get bogged down with a lot of stuff. And I made a lot of mistakes along my audiophile journey over the past few years, so I wanted to share those with you. So welcome to the channel if you're a first timer. If you've been here before, welcome back, my audio friends. Hopefully we'll make some new ones in this video. Really, I want to make sure that new audiophiles don't repeat some of the mistakes that I've made along the way. So I've got some tips here for you in no particular order. I've just been kind of thinking about it, writing them down. So let's get into this and we'll start. And we'll hopefully get you off on the right foot as you're beginning this fun hobby that we participate in. So the first mistake that I think a lot of new audiophiles make is they spend way too much time watching reviews, reading reviews, doing all this stuff without listening to very much gear. So what you're going to find in this hobby is that opinions are all over the place. It is wildly subjective, and even experienced reviewers like myself or the bigger channels, right, it still really comes down to their opinion. Now, there will be measurements and things like that they'll show you, but ultimately what it comes down to is, do you like to listen to the product? And without actually listening to it, you're just not going to know. So I would encourage you to watch a couple reviews, read a couple of things on forums, and then make a decision whether you're buying it or not, and give it a listen for yourself, as opposed to watching every single review out there or trying to read every single thing on it. I think your time's going to be better spent actually listening to some stuff. Number two on my list of mistakes beginning audiophiles make is that they spend too much money on gear. I am of the camp that you can get a lot of value, especially now in 2024 when I'm making this video, in this hobby, trying cheaper gear. Cheaper gear has come a long, long way when we're talking about small little dongle DAC amps, desktop DAC amps, things like that. There's lots of great options for under $100. And IEMs especially are, you can get tons of IEMs for less than $30-40 that sound really, really good now. And I'll link some of those down below, or you can see some of my favorites that are linked down below. And I would encourage you to not spend a ton of money at first, and rather buy cheaper things where you can try several of them and really try to find what you enjoy. Because again, it's all really, really subjective. You need to find stuff that you enjoy to listen to and that works for you. And that's going to lead us into tip number 3, which is, at the end of the day, this is your audio experience, right? Not anybody else's. And I'm of the mindset that really your audio needs to fit your lifestyle and not the other way around, where you need to make your lifestyle fit your audio gear, which I've fallen into that camp at several points in my life. So if you've got a set of like AirPods and you love them and they work for you, and that's just how you listen to music, like you're on a train or a commute or something like that, and you need that portability, that's great, that's fine, right? It's kind of like the old camera saying, right? What's the best camera what's the best camera? It's the one you've got on you. What's the best audio gear? It's the stuff that you have and use. If you've got a $5,000 headphone setup, which I've had at different points in time, but you don't ever get to sit down and listen to it, then what's the point, right? So I've shifted much more as I've got a new, as I've got a family and I've got, a young child right now. I've shifted much more to cheaper, more portable stuff, just because that's what I can listen to at this point. I can't sit down here in my office and listen all that much. So I don't have that much dedicated to that right now. My next tip is one that I still fall prey to, and I just did, honestly, but it is, don't follow the hype, okay? So every single week, or at least once a month, there's going to be new audio products released that are probably iterative, probably not too far from what was previous released, but there will be people out there who will tout them as the greatest thing ever. This is the new, latest, greatest, best. Of course, we all love gear in this hobby. That's why we're here. And it is easy to get sucked into marketing campaigns, new releases, limited releases, things like that. But I would caution you to take a step back, have a little bit of patience, not get sucked into the hype. The worst decisions I have made in this hobby have been when new things have come out. I watched some review. They touted it as a fantastic thing. I rushed out. I bought it brand new, and only to find that I didn't like it, and then I had to turn around and sell it. And I didn't do very well on the sale, and I lost money on it. Which is going to lead me into my next tip, which is try to buy used gear. There are great options out there for sites where lots of fantastic people are just wanting to try different gear, just like you and I. And for the most part, everybody I've dealt with in this hobby has been pretty honest and pretty kind to work with. And there's only been a couple of instances after probably the hundreds at this point of transactions I've had with strangers online where I've been disappointed with what I've got or felt like I was maybe misled in some way. So by and large, the used market is a fantastic way to try gear, buy it, listen, sell it. You get most of your money back, and you can try more stuff, right? It's an easy way to be able to try more stuff and not have to worry about making that investment and not being able to get your money back on something. So I would highly recommend checking out Hi-Fi Guides Forum, Reddit AV Exchange, and Headphone are the three big ones that I use. Of course, you got things like eBay, and don't overlook too, like Amazon open box stuff can be a great place to look as well as individual companies doing just like B stock sales and things like that. A lot of companies have refurbished stuff, and that's a safe way to go as well if you're a little nervous to get into the used market. So the other thing is, we're talking about buying and selling and trying gear, is I would recommend that you try quite a bit of gear, actually. And I know I'm talking about, making sure you don't spend too much money and not getting too much gear at once and all this stuff. But at the same time, if you're going to formulate some informed opinions, then you need to have gear to listen to, and you need to try different things. So I personally have found that the sweet spot for me is to have really only about 2 or 3 things to compare at a time. If you get any more than that, it can just become such a burden where your desk is piled up with these different DACs and amps and switch boxes and things like that. And you got all these boxes lying around, and it can become overwhelming very, very quickly, like lots of hobbies, right? So I would caution you to not buy too much gear at any one point in time, but rather find a couple of options of each thing, DACs, amps, and stuff like that you enjoy, and then rotate in new pieces of gear where you can compare at a reasonable pace, and try them out. Again, for me, I like to, if I'm doing a DAC and an amp, I might try it against one other DAC and amp, and then I might do one headphone and try it with this amp, and then switch to another headphone and compare that way. So I really think doing pairs of things and going back and forth like that is probably one of the easiest ways to make some comparisons without becoming overwhelmed and having too much money invested into things. As you progress through and you try different things and you find out what you like and what works for you and what your use case is, then that's when I would consider that you do a little bit of research and think and see if you can find things that kind of fit what you think sounds like your sound style and your use case. And then that's when I would start spending a little bit more money on gear and investing a little bit more. Again, I would be cautious about how much you invest. Like, I wouldn't jump from $100 headphone up to $1,000 headphone, because there's a lot of fun that can be had along the way trying out different things. So if you've tried a couple of $100 headphones and you want to see what the next step up is, my recommendation would be maybe to instead, if you said you wanted to spend, $600, instead of buying that $600 headphone, I might go to the used market, spend $600 on 2 different headphones, try those out, and then progress that way. You want to spend $1,000? Again, looking at like $1,000 headphone, I don't know if that's the right choice. You might be better off buying 2 $500 headphones, picking which one of those you like, and then thinking about comparing it to the next thing. So I think that's a great personal strategy that I've used, and that's worked well for me. The last tip that I'll leave you with is, don't feel like you can't step away from the hobby, right? Even though I do this on a fairly regular basis, and I've even started a YouTube channel and I've been doing all this, I still need to take a break from audio every now and then, right? Again, I'm going to go back to that point of like, your audio has to work for you. And we just go through times in our life where we probably don't have that much time to allocate to it, depending on what your job is, what your family situation is, what your money situation is, all that stuff. So don't be afraid to take a step back, walk away. There are weeks at a time that I go by only using my Space A40, like $70 true wireless system. Why? Just because that's what my life is like at that point in time. I've recently purged. There was a time where I had like 10 grand in audio equipment lying around, right? But that's not reasonable for me. So I've scaled all that way back at this point with my new daughter arriving, and am just kind of rebuilding and again, building it up again around my current lifestyle. So don't feel like you can't step away. Again, one reason why I love buying stuff used is that if you ever feel like you need to just purge and start over, you're not going to lose your ass on all this stuff that has depreciated in value. You're going to be able to, get most of your money back. And if you want to buy that gear again, guess what? It's going to be out there. It's going to be available. Most of this stuff is pretty widely available. If you're patient, you can get whatever you want back again, probably for the price you bought it for originally, right? So just take a breath. It's just audio, right? We love it. We love the gear, but it's okay to just take a step back sometimes and reassess where you're at. I think that's what I've got for this video. So hopefully you find some of those tips useful, especially if you're new to the hobby. Consider some of those things. And of course, if you're into the hobby and you're watching this, or you've been a follower of the channel for a while and you do feel like you have some other advice to offer some new people getting into the hobby, go ahead and drop those comments down below. Also, check the description out below. Again, I'm going to link to some products that I think are worthwhile in looking at, that I think are a good value to start off with. I'm also going to link to some other YouTube channels that I really like, that I think are good to follow if you're getting into this, and I'll link to some of those websites that I talked about where you can buy and sell some used gear on. So happy hunting, enjoy the journey. Remember, it's all about what works for you, despite what anybody else on the internet is going to tell you. So make your audio work for you. Have fun. Don't take it too terribly seriously. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.